So we're back taking another look at Rainbow Six, this time focusing on the operators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each operator, give you a few tips and tricks for each one, and I'm going to start with defense. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the more useful operators in the beginning and work my way down. Now, I'm not saying that they're in an order of the most useful. I'm not saying like the first one that I talk about is the very best operator or that the last one that I talk about is the very worst operator, but I am going to talk about the more useful ones up front. So the first one is Mute, and this is actually the class that I play as most as a defender. Mute can lay down jammers that disrupt electronic signals. So what most people use these for is to lay them in doorways or at the top of steps, for instance, in order to keep the attacking drones from being able to find the objective or to see your defensive positions. And it's going to stop most drones. But if you're a good drone driver, you can actually jump over them if you time them just right. And if you're a drone driver, if you look up, for instance, you're going to jump higher in that direction. So you jump higher or further, whatever direction is that you're looking at. So if you don't want a drone to jump over your jammer, what I normally do is I'll place the drone on the inside of a doorway and then barricade it, and then that way there's no way for them to jump over. But this is really just a temporary fix. So if you're playing against any decent team, they're going to find your position. They'll be able to shoot out your jammers if you got them right behind the door, and they'll be able to still use their drones later on in the game. So what I normally do is I try to block the doorways and drones if I can in the beginning. And then once the round starts or gets close to getting started, I'll go ahead and I'll pick up the jammers, remove them from the doorways, and actually put them in front of reinforced walls and occasionally windows if they've been reinforced by Castle. And the reason is because jammers will also stop breaching charges, including thermite, from detonating, as well as fuse charges. So if you've got one up on like a window that Castle is barricaded, the only way they're going to be able to break that down is if they sledge in or if they use Ash with a grenade launcher, or if they just sit there and beat it, because you can beat that off with several hits. And normally if I am placing a jammer in between two reinforced walls, I'll place the jammer in the middle of the two walls, because the jammer does have limited range, and most people, they'll just walk right up to the middle of the wall and try to place a thermite. So also, if they were to bust through, then depending on the room, of course, but more than likely, if they bust through on the ends, then there's going to be a wall, so that they're kind of limited as far as where you would have to look. Like, you don't have to worry about them coming from the left or the right. Like, if you've got a wall there, you can just pay attention to one smaller section. So Mute is definitely a good class to have, and they do a lot more than just stop drones. Rook is another operator that's really good to have on defense. They have a great shotgun, but their special ability is laying down armor plates for your teammates. So this helps out your entire team. Everybody can go and grab one, and sometimes you do want to be sure to tell your teammates to go grab them if you see that, there's still some sitting in the box. But we've done a number of tests with and without armor, and basically a shot to the chest is going to save you on average 5 health points if you have armor, and if you get shot in the limbs, then it's going to save you 3 health points, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but in a gunfight where there's a hell of bullets, it could be the difference in dying or surviving. But it does not help with headshots. Headshots are still an insta-kill. Castle has 3 reinforced barricades, so if you're defending a room, especially if there's not many windows and you don't want the enemy to come through the window, a lot of times those are the best places to put them, is on the windows that you don't want the enemy to come through. You can also use them on doors. Neither you nor the attacker can shoot through them unless you're using Glaz. Glaz and his sniper rifle can actually shoot through these barricades. But they can also be destroyed by hitting them 12 times melee, which takes forever. But you can also destroy them by using Sledge with his hammer, or Ash with her grenade launcher, or of course using a breaching charge. Doc has a stem pistol that you can shoot teammates who are down, and this is really helpful so you don't have to expose yourself if your teammates are down on the other side of the room, for instance. You can also revive yourself if you get put down, so it's like a try again button, which is really nice. Now, one trick that we like to do with this class is, say one of your teammates is really low on health. Say they've only got 15 or 5% health. we'll ask one of our teammates to shoot us in the leg with a pistol, not a revolver, but a weaker pistol, and that way it'll put us down, and Doc can then revive us. And the reason why we do this is because if somebody comes over and they like pat you in order to get you back up, that gives you 50% health. So you can do this trick even if you don't have Doc on your team, but if you have Doc and they shoot you with the pistol, then your health goes up to 75%. So, I mean, if you get almost all your health back, then if you're able to do it, get in a corner with your teammates, let them shoot you, down you, and then pick you back up with Doc, and you've almost got a full health ready to go. The smoke operator has gas canisters that they can throw out and release a cloud of toxic gas that wounds enemies pretty good. So if an enemy is low on health, it can also kill them off pretty quickly. And it's nice because these can be thrown pretty far. So it's good if somebody busts out a door or a wall or a ceiling area. So you can throw that into that opening and usually get whoever's nearby it. Smoke can also run through their own cloud of gas, but nobody else on the team can run through the gas. And you may notice that there's other operators that have gas masks, but we've tested it and it's all for looks. They don't actually protect you, so only Smoke can run through their own smoke cloud. Kapkan gives you laser traps which you can place in doorways and windows. Honestly, these are really easy to spot in windows because most of the time if you knock out, one tile in a window, you're going to be able to see that laser. So I would stick to the doorways with these and place them on the inside of the doors. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll actually barricade up a door, place the trap there, then tear down the door, which creates rubble on the ground, and then build the door back up. And so that way it just kind of hides it just a little bit extra for somebody walking through that. Another thing that we'll do sometimes is actually knock out a couple of holes maybe in the top of the doorway, so that way an enemy may only have to hit it one time and then the door comes down, and if they're in a hurry, they're not thinking, they're not paying attention, they'll just walk on through. So the idea is to try to get them through the door as fast as possible, and that's one way to pick up some easy kill. Now if you're an enemy, if you pay attention, you can actually see the lasers on the outside of the door by paying attention to the attachment. There's an easily identifiable attachment on the outside of a door. It's like this huge screw that comes out. So if you look at a doorway, you can know whether or not a laser's on the outside of it. So that'll save you a death every once in a while. Pulse has a heartbeat sensor that can pick up enemies through walls. It's really helpful if you're laying down markers for your teammates like I showed you how to do in the first defense video to let your teammates know where the enemy is. You can also watch windows if you're in a room that doesn't have very many, if it's a smaller room. So you can actually see if somebody's coming up to place a charge or to break in and then shoot them before they even get to the window. But it doesn't have a huge range from what we've, tested, and you're extremely exposed whenever you're also running around the room kind of looking through this thing. And so you may be running into an area that you may not even realize that you're in danger. So it's not as useful or OP as, some people might think it is. And we actually rarely ever run with the heartbeat sensor, but occasionally we'll mix it up and bring it onto a map just depending on who we're playing. But again, if you're in a big, large area, it's going to be less useful because you're going to be having to walk around and try to look on each wall or ceiling. Bandit can set down batteries that shock nearby metal objects. So you can shock a reinforced wall or barbed wire. If you're the enemy, it's sort of easy to kind of spot this. If you just look at it for a moment and pay attention, you can actually see like electricity sparking off the metal object. They'll shock drones and kill them instantly. They'll do some damage to enemies. It'll also destroy any breaching charges that may be placed on a reinforced wall. So if somebody tries to place one up, it'll just destroy it without detonating it. But if you're trying to attach it to a reinforced wall, you know how I told you can place a jammer in the middle of two reinforced walls and it'll kind of give coverage to parts of both walls. With the shocker, it's only going to shock one item at a time. So if you place it in the middle, it's only going to shock one of those walls. Also, you have to be careful because if you do have somebody nearby you who's laying down other tools like a booby trap or a jammer, it'll also shock and kill those friendly gadgets. So you have to be careful and not place them near one of your teammates' gadgets. Now, one of the best uses that I've seen of this is you can actually shock a shield. So if you've got a teammate that has a shield, you can place the shield inside the doorway that basically blocks off a door, and then you set the battery on the inside of that shield and it'll shock that shield. So once again, it's going to shock any drones, kill them that come through, and it's also going to make the enemies have to destroy that with a grenade or an explosive in order to get it out of the way. Really nice feature, but you do have to have a teammate who's going to bring along a shield and then be able to communicate with you to put it into a doorway. Tachanka has a mounted machine gun that you can set up that can do some heavy damage, really good for suppressive fire, but a lot of people have trouble finding an area to be able to set this down at. So here's a little tip that goes for every single device that you try to put down, whether it's jammers, shields, or this machine gun. If you hold it out, if you don't see a little white dot on your screen wherever it is that you're pointing, then the object isn't going to go down. But if you see that white dot, then let go and it'll place that object down in that area. So just look for that white dot to determine whether or not the object's going to go down. And we usually try to place a shield around this operator to give them a little bit of extra cover, because this is an operator who's exposed whenever they're using their gadget, and it's not got a whole lot of mobility, so if somebody comes up beside you or behind you or whatever, you're kind of screwed. But it is really good and can do some heavy damage into an area where enemies might be coming through. Jaeger is the last defensive operator. They've got an active defense system that they can lay out, and that'll destroy incoming grenades or flashbangs. But the problem with Jaeger is, one, they have little armor, and their active defense systems can only stop 3 incoming projectiles, and then they just stop working. So even if you have it near a door that gets fused, it's only going to stop some of those hockey pucks from coming in. And then if you have 2 that are close together, they'll actually both fire off at the same projectile. So it's possible that you could have one fuse grenade that's shot through a door or a window that takes out all 3 defense systems and still doesn't even capture all the actual grenades. And just how I showed you, like how you could wound the enemy in the first defensive video if you're playing hostage in a round, we've won so many rounds by having the enemy team kill the hostage, like with a fuse grenade. So if you're playing a hostage map, don't bring a Jaeger and put that active defense system in the room with the hostage. You want somebody to screw up on the enemy team, and you want them to kill the hostage if it's at all possible. So you want those explosives to go off. So we rarely ever choose Jaeger, especially when playing hostage. And the truth of the matter is, you can actually run away from most grenades or fuse charges once you hear them going off or once you see the indicator for it. So that's all I've got as far as the operators for the defense goes. In the next video, I'll cover the attacking team if you want some more. Again, this is up to your support as to whether or not you want me to continue this series. Had a lot of good feedback on the last video, and I appreciate that because these videos take a long time to do. I have to go through hours of footage a lot of times in order to find clips that fit everything together. So they're not easy to do, but your support definitely makes it worthwhile. And the more support we have, the faster I'm going to get those videos out. So definitely be sure to comment, like this, and share it with your favorite Rainbow Six communities if you learned something new or if you thought this was useful for other Rainbow Six players. That does it for me, The Red Dragon. Check out the other Rainbow Six videos that I'll have linked down below. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.